Hey guys, Nick Mullaney here, and I want to share with you today the 10 mistakes that I think a lot of newbies, a lot of sellers that are jumping into the Amazon space will make if they're not aware of these. I've been selling on Amazon for the last 7 years. I've generated over 5 million in sales and have my business running profitably on the side now as I go and venture into different things. But let's get into it. Mistake number one is simply starting with private label. A lot of sellers will jump from knowing nothing into private label. And I think that's like climbing Mount Everest, right? Because private label is probably the hardest model you can do on Amazon. You have to build a brand, you have to find the opportunity, find the manufacturer, do inspections, build the branding, and then bring it overseas to like US and Canada from China most likely. And then the challenge really just begins there as well, because you're now building a listing from scratch and you have to convince people to buy your product over other people's product. So my recommendation there is always to start with online arbitrage. You can get started in a matter of weeks and make revenue in a matter of weeks, especially with a leads program that I offer. You can check that out in the link in my bio. You get 3 products every day, and all you got to do is analyze them. So OA, then mom and pop, then wholesale, and then private label. That is the method or path you should take. Let's go over to mistake number 2. That is starting with wholesale too soon. And so very similarly, a lot of people will jump into wholesale thinking that they're going to order 1,000 units of profitable products by week 2. But wholesale is a relationship-based game, and that is simply going to evolve from you going to trade shows, you making cold calls. And if you don't have that long-term mindset, if you're not willing to hear a lot of no's, you will get demotivated and probably stop or procrastinate. And so I believe in small wins. I believe in doing OA and then ultimately winning and seeing that it works, making profit, and then slowly taking those OA products and finding wholesalers for that, or even one step between, finding mom and pop shops. If you're not familiar with this, you can watch other videos. This is a methodology I created and put together. That way you can piggyback off of local stores as well as online stores that are selling this stuff, and you can partner with them and piggyback off of their existing relationships. Okay. Mistake number 3, thinking you need perfect logistics to get started. A lot of people will want to get their LLC, get their EIN, get their resale certificate, set up the banking, set up the business credit card. But all of this stuff is not priority when you're beginning. Your number one priority should be, I want to make sales. I want to prove this concept and bring revenue through the door. That should be your proof of concept for any business idea. And you want to get to that as fast as possible. Generate revenue, okay? In wholesale, yes, you need all those things because you're working with suppliers, you're working with, distributors, and they want those documents. But again, in the world of OA, you can just do everything with your personal name on the Amazon account, as well as, let's say, your personal credit card and bank account. You can figure all that stuff out later down the road. Just get started, get some sales through the door, and then you can backtrack and reorganize and set everything up legit, okay? Mistake number 4, using too many tools. A lot of people, just are downloading every tool that comes around them. They're using Keepa, SellerAmp, AZ Insight, Smart Scout, you name it. There's so many tools out there. And so I'm telling you, you only need 2 tools to do product research. And those tools are Keepa and AMW Scope. Keepa will tell you the history of everything. It'll give you charts. It'll give you just the history of a product so you can see the future and predict the future based off of the history, the number of sellers, the price movement, the ranking, and so on. AMW Scope will give you pretty much a snapshot of that day of what the product opportunity is. And it's a very easy scoring system, 1 out of 10, based on a lot of different factors, based on my own checklist. So buy box split, buy box consistency, the number of sellers, how much inventory the sellers have, and so on. And so it also has a profit calculator, which allows you to be able to check your profitability. And that's all you need. You need Keepa and AMW Scope. It has everything you need. Then when you move on to wholesale and mom and pop, you want to look into the brands that Amazon carries and strategize and see what listings are good, that's when you'll need Smart Scout. Okay, that's really it. But don't even worry about Smart Scout for now. All you need is Keepa and AMW Scope. Then once you start selling, you need two more tools. One is Seller Board, which just allows you to look at product like profitability, and it allows you to make sure that you're actually making money. It pulls in all the Amazon fees from your account specifically. That way you can keep track of profitability. The Amazon Seller Central app is good for just seeing sales, but after you make some sales, you need to make sure you're making profit. Amazon usually just wants you to focus on sales because they take a cut right from the top, but you want to make sure you're profiting. So Seller Board gives you that transparency. You set your costs of goods, and then everything else is pulled directly from the Amazon API, so it's super easy. It also helps you track inventory. So if your products start to sell out, it'll give you a hazard symbol of like, hey, you should reorder. And based on what you've set in terms of how many days it takes for you to order and actually get the products into Amazon FBA, or if you're doing FBM, then same thing, you set that. And ultimately, it'll give you a warning before you sell out completely, but it'll also give you a warning for when you should reorder based on how long it takes from ordering to getting products ready to Amazon FBA. Okay, so that's it. Okay, actually, I lied. There's one more tool called Aura. That is a repricer. You also need this when you start selling because you want to stay competitive when you're selling. You want to stay competitive with your price. And Aura is a great AI tool, super easy to use. And if you're doing less than 10K a month, it'll only be, I think, $20, $25 a month, maybe 30. And it's like, that's one of the most important parts for reselling. And so definitely get Aura once you start selling to be able to automate your repricing to stay competitive so you can win more of the buy box. Okay. Mistake number 5, not using a prep center in a tax-free state. So if you're doing OA or even wholesale, you want to make sure you're not spending extra money on sales tax. This goes for two ways. In OA, when you buy from a website, rarely can you give them a reseller certificate to avoid paying tax. So it's easy, and especially if you're ignoring even getting that initially, the easiest way to avoid paying sales tax and just like adding that to your margin, which is literally like there's no reason for it, you should open up a prep center in a sales tax-free state. So think Delaware, think Montana, think Alaska. Obviously not there though. I think what's the state on top of what am I saying? Under Washington. I'm not from the U.S., so this is always funny to me. I think it's Oregon. Yeah. So also a state without sales tax, and these are like really good states that you want to find prep centers in to be able to simply open up an account with them, and then when you use their shipping address, when you use their address as your shipping address, when you check out from a website when doing online arbitrage, you'll see the sales tax will just go to 0. So that's a hack. You better be doing that, right? I have Montana partners, so if you're interested in that, just send me a DM. I can send you the prep center that I use myself in Montana, and it's perfect for that. And then, of course, they don't charge you sales tax either. When they bill you, they're not charging sales tax. So it's a double whammy there. You better not be using a prep center in any other state. I think there's like 5 states in total that don't charge sales tax. Mistake number 6, ignoring the mom and pop arbitrage method. So if you're not familiar with this, again, this is something I coined. This is something that I did and still have like half of my suppliers are through this method. And it's around finding suppliers and piggybacking off of suppliers that are already working with, let's say, small local retail shops or even online shops that have their own website for specific niches. So imagine like if you search up tennis balls on Google, you're going to find a bunch of websites that are dedicated to tennis. And they're just like retail shops. They'll sell Wilson, they'll sell Head, they'll sell all these big brands. But they're not selling on Amazon necessarily because these websites are probably making a lot of money. And so why not try to contact them and try to partner with them to be able to buy in bulk, right? And it's as simple as that. All you got to do is request to purchase in bulk, and then you start to have a conversation. They might have a sales team that they might point you to. They might say, hey, come, let's talk face to face, whatever it may be, right? And LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a great way to get in touch with the owners or the people. So look into that. That is definitely a great way for you to just start making money quickly, but in bulk, right? OA, you're only buying 10, 15 units at a time of something, so it's hard to scale. Mom and pop is a great way for you to get your foot into wholesale without hearing a lot of no's and hearing a lot of people to tell you, hey, sorry, we don't want to work with brand new Amazon sellers and so on. So it's a great, great way for you to get in and be able to kind of like go around the system. Mistake number 7, not vetting suppliers. So this does go into wholesale more. Not everyone who you call will be legit. Not every wholesale seller is legit, right? 2 years ago, I think, maybe even now, some people still try to sell their products as a wholesaler on Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups. That caused a huge issue with Amazon, and so that honestly became a problem. And at the end of the day, that's not who you want to be buying from. You want to buy from really good wholesalers that have been in the game for a while and that have proper websites, proper domains, real addresses. You want to Google Maps their address and make sure they have a warehouse, that they're legit, and then ultimately that they're authorized to sell the brands that they're selling as well. And if you can't figure that out, you can always call the brand directly, contact the brand directly, and ask them for authorized distributors, or ask them if the distributor you're speaking with is an authorized distributor. Okay, not every distributor is going to be authorized. Like, there are middlemen within the distributor world, but you at least want to make sure that they have a good presence on Google. I always like to look at the first page after I search them, the distributor, and want to make sure that they have Google Maps, that they have Google Business, that they come up in the first few searches. They might be on LinkedIn, they might be on Business Better Bureau. I just want to see proof and history and online presence of the business. That way, when Amazon ever questions it, then I can show them a lot of things. Okay, so that's very, very important. Mistake number 8, not using Keepa for UPC pricing. So when you call wholesalers, chances are they have massive lists of products. Okay, that's what we're looking for. If they don't, they will give you the website, or you're gonna have to go and figure out what brands they have to then search up the brands manually. And that's where AMW Scope and Smart Scout come into play. But if a distributor can give you a list, then the first step is to try to take the UPCs, the barcodes that are in the list, and try to convert them to ASINs, which is Amazon listings. And you want to be able to find the listings that are directly related to the UPCs. And so Keepa has a free feature of this. A lot of people will use Scan Unlimited or even Smart Scout. And as much as I love Smart Scout's UPC scraper, because we've integrated AMW Scope on top of it to get a very quick score, 1 out of 10, so you can quickly see what's good and what's not good, it's limited. You can only do, I think, 10,000 products a month on a basic plan. That's nothing, right? A list from a wholesaler can be 10,000, so that's one supplier. Keepa has this feature for free, as long as you're paying for Keepa. If you go into the website, keepa.com, and if you go to the data portion, right underneath, you can see the second one. I think it's called product something. You just upload a list of UPCs, and it'll look it up, and boom. Then you have a full dashboard of all the products that your supplier has that is now converted to listings on Amazon, so you can compare and see if it's a good product. So definitely check out Keepa for UPC scraping. Mistake number 9, being afraid of MOQs. A lot of people are fearful when they call a supplier and they're like, the minimum order quantity is $10,000 or $5,000. Don't be afraid of that, because that should be like 1 out of 10. Most suppliers I've ever called have MOQs of $300, $400, $500. So if you hear a MOQ of 5,000, that just means you've called the wrong person and you got to keep going. Another hack you can say is, look, we have a company policy. On our first order, we can't spend more than $1,200 or let's say $1,500 on our first order ever with the supplier. And sometimes people will be like, okay, I understand, like, that's your company policy. Let's try to work something out. So you can always negotiate. And that's something you should take away from this whole video or this business in general. Everything is negotiable. Everything is about having a conversation, picking up the phone, and showing that your intent and showing that you're serious. So don't ever be scared of MOQs. Sure, if someone is very, very adamant about a $5,000 minimum MOQ, okay, move on to the next supplier. There's tons of suppliers with low MOQs, so don't be scared of that. Let's go to our last mistake, mistake number 10, ungating without proper invoices. So a lot of you might be worried and might be, just blocked by ungating, and you might think that that's the end of the world as well. Trust me, I get it. There are still some products that I can't ungate for, but there are plenty of products that I've been ungated for that I'm still ungating on a daily basis. My team and I are ungating products every day. And so you just have to understand that it takes a bit of like a skill, and make sure that you're following the guidelines properly. Make sure it's a PDF invoice. Make sure it's an invoice, like a paid invoice, rather than an order confirmation. Make sure it has the supplier's name, logo, and address, right? Make sure your business name and address match exactly like it is on your Amazon business info side. Even if you have let's say suite number something on your Amazon account, but the invoice has unit number, change that. Make sure that's literally exactly the same. Make sure the product name, the quantity, and if there's a stamp that says marked paid or something, that all helps. Make sure it's at least 10 units. Sometimes these days in the US, they'll ask for 100, 200, 300 units. Those are definitely harder to ungate. And then understand that the shipping address can be different, but the actual billing address on the invoice needs to be the one that's connected to the Amazon account. Okay, so this is all super important in ungating. And if you realize that you put everything, correctly, and you set it all up properly, and you're still getting rejected with no reason, that usually means that Amazon does not find the supplier to be credible or authorized to sell you that brand and product. So it's got really nothing to do with your invoice, but it might have to do with just Amazon being this, let's say Wilson 3-pack US Open tennis ball. We don't think that this supplier truly has a good source for it. We don't trust the supplier, essentially. And so if that's the case, if you start to realize that you've done everything right, but you're just getting rejected, you're going to have to find another supplier. You're going to have to find another way. And you can always try to order a small amount, whatever the minimum is, from OA websites, right? There are a few websites like well.ca, like Costco, like VitaSave. These are in Canada. In the US, you have websites like Sephora, also Costco. You have a few different websites, I think soccer.com, that are just known, even target.com. These are all known to ungate you. So you can always try to find the same brand and try to order products from there just to get ungated, and then that way you can go back to your main source and just buy it for cheaper and whatnot. So that sums up the 10 mistakes. I hope that gave you some insight. Again, this is all based off of my 7 years of experience. If you're interested in learning more, just subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting more videos like this. Let me know in the comments what you thought. If you have questions, if you want me to cover anything more specifically. But this, applies to Canada and US marketplaces. So if there's anything else, let me know. But thanks for watching.